Can you hear me now?
I totally hear you.
Oh,
Can you hear
okay.
me? Perfect. I'm going
I'm
live
sorry.
right now.
Can you hear me now?
I totally hear you.
Oh,
Can you hear
okay.
me?
What's funny, I don't know if you feel
Okay.
it, if you
I'm going
notice.
live right now.
Can you hear me
So
now? I
let
totally hear you.
me
Can you hear me?
turn the volume. Okay, perfect. So I just want to make sure that we are seen on live, and we are.
Oh my God. Wow. It's the first time that I do actually on YouTube.
Yeah. I've been having some difficulties because of it hopping between my Safari and my Chrome, and apparently that affects how it's going to run. So, to all my viewers, I apologize, but thank you for bearing with me as we work through all of the technical difficulties of moving from IG Live into YouTube Live. I will get a handle on it, I'm sure. So,
Yes.
thank you all for being here. I appreciate you joining us this morning on Journey of Self Mastery in Lessening Personal Suffering. We have the beauty and the joy of having the beautiful Anna with us this morning, straight from Brazil. And she is going to share with us a little insight on who she is, her journey in this space. And we will talk through really some tools that she's used, some tools that I've used, and really starting to just master this space, mastering your mindset and having an understanding of yourself in walking through this, because it is a murky space to walk through and it can be really, really trying and challenging. So, the beauty of having Anna here is that we have her expertise and really just her own self mastery in this space. So, let me start off by defining self mastery. Self mastery is actually speaking of mastering yourself. And it's mastering yourself as a journey. It is not a destination. It is not a space of perfection and reaching your ultimate, perfect positioning. It is about actually just reaching different layers of yourself, mastering different layers of yourself, and coming to a place of equilibrium each time that you do. So, as I've explained that and clarified that, let's now step into this specific journey. Anna, if you can give everyone a background about yourself, a little intro to who you are.
All right. First of all, I would like to thank you a lot having me on this journey. And it's one thing that I love is that people that the more you learn about self mastery, the better you feel about anything, right? About life, about how you conquer things. So it's just like what you're doing is amazing. Thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. So I began my journey what I can say on self mastery back in 2007 when I found out about neuro linguistic program, which is learning how to deal with your thoughts, with the words, how they affect your life. And that helped me a lot. But one thing that we learned from our super coach, Tony Robbins, is that if we don't use what we learn, you lose it, right? Just like a muscle, when you go to the gym, if you don't exercise, if you stop exercising, you lose that muscle. So what happened was for a period of time, I was using everything that I learned and my life was going great. And it got to a certain point that I kind of like when you think that you know it all, that you have everything that needs, but you don't. You just like don't feed yourself every day. So what happened was back in 2013, my mom was diagnosed with severe case of like early dementia, and she was like 50 years old, so she was very young, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So I got into a very I became very depressed with all the situation, the things that happened. Um, so I went into a lot of suffering during the period that I found out my mom's disease, that I couldn't do anything, and I forgot all the twos. So I can say that for actually 2 years, um, almost 2 years, I lived into very, very bad depression,
Mm.
right? So I had to even though I was depressed, I didn't know, of course, I didn't want to be there. And one thing that also that I realize is when we suffer, our loved ones also suffer, right?
Yes.
So I looked at them, I said, oh, I don't want to see them suffering, but I don't know how to get out of this. So what's going to happen? Right. So during this time, my husband took me to the doctors. I was in medication for a couple of time. And I remember one day that I was in very heavy medication. I was basically getting out of bed, and I wasn't taking a shower. For me, taking a shower is, some people think, oh, it's natural to take a shower, but if you are in a very severe case of depression, even taking a bath, getting out of bed and taking a bath, it's something very, very hard, right?
Yes.
So this is important because sometimes people can say, oh, I don't want to even listen to you because you don't understand what I'm feeling or what I'm going through. But trust me, I mean, I do. I've been like, like when you hit the bottom, that's how I felt. I did. So I was taking a medicine, and I remember one day I was feeling very bad, and I decided even to drink wine. I thought that there was no meaning to my life. I was, when I had to, one way that I did to help my mom was move closer to her. So I had to let go of my apartment, the apartment that I lived. My son at the time did not want to move to the same neighborhood, so he went to live with his father, which was very difficult to me. I was in a new marriage, so everything was like really, really new and crazy at the same time, and I didn't know how to deal with all of that. And our brain gets like fog, right? So like you can't not think straight. There are so many things going on, and you just can't think straight.
Yeah.
So so I remember, like I said, my husband was helping me going to the doctors, and I remember one day I was like, okay, I don't want to live. That makes no sense because I was suffering so much. And sometimes when you suffer a lot, a way to ease your pain is to die, right? You think you're better off, you think it's better for you, for others, because others, they will not suffer along with you. So I thought it would be better for my son, it would be better for my husband. um, and like I said, I mean, I didn't care about my life. I didn't find beauty in anything. It was just like really very bad. That's when, like I said, I was in the medication, and I took wine, and then I fell in the bathroom. I hit my head, and I was like really, really hurt. That's when and then of course my husband put me to bed. He said, oh my God, you're crazy. You're doing this. I don't want to live. And then I look at my dogs and my cats. I they in a way, they were the ones who saved me.
Isn't it interesting how nature does that?
Yes.
Speaks to you
So
in the moments in which you finally come to a silence within yourself.
exactly. So I looked at those faces, and I said, okay, my mom, I know someone would take care of her. I know someone would take care of my son or my husband, whatever. But I don't think anyone will take care of my animals the way that I do. So for them, I found the strength that I always had inside. We have the strength inside. We have what we need, what it takes, right? But we just don't know how to get there, how to access. And that's when I got all of this. It was so funny, guy. I got all the pills that I was taking. I know maybe doctors will say that I'm crazy. People shouldn't do that. But just like I threw them away and said, this is not how I'm going to be better. I have to take care of my mind. I have to take care of myself. And what I did was, I have this Tony Robbins books, of course. And so I said, okay, this is this is how I'm going to start here. So basically, in like 2 days or 3 days, I got Tony's books, and I was reading like crazy. I said, I have to get out of this. I have to find beauty in everything. I have to snap out of it. I have to take care of my health as well, because I was like extremely overweight. I'm going to take care of my health, of my mind, and I have to get my life back on track. So basically, the beginning of the end of suffering was when I realized that I needed what it takes, right? So everything was within me, and I could, of course, I could find other ways to help me find this deep place inside of me that would help me end or lessen suffering. So back in 2015, I began this journey, and then I lost like tons of weight. I was feeling better. I was working out, because another thing that we know is very important is to exercise, right? So after just 2 years, my life just like turned upside down, but for the better, and I was in control of my life. And ever since 2015, things have been amazing. Do I have problems? Of course I do. Everyone has problems, right? Do we get upset? Do we get sad? Yes, but I don't go into the place of suffering anymore. When I realize that, I go, okay, this has to stop. What can I do? Right? So this is just like, I don't know if you want to ask me more questions about it, or if I just
Tons.
spoke too much.
I
No,
have
but
tons of questions.
okay.
But before I dig into the questions, I think I was a little amiss in not letting you actually say hello in your native tongue to fellow Brazilians who may be watching. So please feel free to greet those who may be watching and following you.
Alright. Oi, gente, tudo bem? Espero que vocês curtam. Vamos um pouquinho de inglês aí. What I told them, Patricia, is like when I posted, I said, if you guys want to practice your English and when you listen to me, come to this live. But well,
Oh,
I have
beautiful.
some friends.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, I love that factor. If at any point in time there is something that you feel that you want to translate
Okay.
and into Portuguese, please feel free to do so
Okay.
because YouTube is a global platform, so I am totally open to it. Won't bother me a bit.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah,
like
not a
people
problem.
to practice their English. It's good for them.
Okay, perfect. So I love the fact that you actually gave that beautiful background. I think for a lot of people, actually, let me start off with yesterday. I actually gave a posting every Thursday. I do a preview Thursday for these Self Mastery Friday interviews. And it's really just giving people an insight into the subject and really some things to purview before the dialogue. So I walk them through what personal suffering is and really just starting to define that space. Lots of people tend to think that it's one dimensional. Like they think personal suffering is like, okay, depression and being stuck and okay, I don't know what to do and this is it. That's personal suffering. But personal suffering has many layers to it. It starts off small and then it builds into these other spaces. And based off of what your background is, what your connections are, what your history is with suffering, it can come out in different ways. So, in the preview Thursday, I spoke about the fact that personal suffering can come out in anger, it can come out in depression, it can come out in really just feeling lost and disconnected. It's all a matter of how it builds. So I think it would be beautiful if you can walk everyone through really the beginning stages of that suffering for yourself and really just starting to take note of what those markers are.
Mhm. Yeah. What happened was, again, I can say, like as you're saying, there are different levels, and especially when you don't know how they come about, or where it's like when you're in a space, right, you don't realize why you're getting there.
Right.
It's just like you feel like overwhelmed, right? And it is a mix of anger, of why is this happening to me, and we have the tendency of asking this, why is this happening to me, right? So this is one of the things that every time that something happens, and you shouldn't say, why is this happening to me? You said, why am what am I learning from this? What can
Yeah,
I
what is this
create?
moment here to teach me?
Yeah, what can I create of the situation? What can I learn from this? So change your questions, right? Because just like, why is this happening to me, probably we're not going to find an answer, but when we ask other questions, we can be like, oh, all right, I'm learning how to be more self-sufficient. I'm learning um, how to help others in a different way, right? So in the beginning, it was just like, first was the, how can I say that? I don't know if it was frustration, was because like my mom and I, we kind of like lived separate lives. She lived her lives and I lived my life. And it has been like that for like ever, right?
Hmm.
Ever since I was very young. And I remember I lived with my father doing when I was a teenager. And my mom was not like around me so much. And I had lost my dad a couple months before, I think. Yeah, about a couple months before. And and then I was with my mom and I had to take care of this, my mom, right? And usually I wasn't ready to take care of her. So I didn't know much about her, also, to be honest with you. So how could I help my mom not knowing a lot about her? And she was very resistant in the beginning, because in the beginning she was aware of her of what she would be going through, but she didn't want to help. So it's, you want to help someone that doesn't want to help. So it was like a really mix of like frustration was like came very strong for me. um some anger, no doubt about it, because I mean, why doesn't she want to help? I'm here to help her. Why doesn't she understand that everything is important to her? um and confusion, loss, like again, I said that I had to move from the neighborhood that I loved to a different neighborhood, which is good, but it wasn't the one that I was used to, that I lived for like 10 years. My son moved out of my house. So it was just like an overwhelm of things, right? And what's interesting that you said is that when we previously talked, I mentioned that we, one of the important things that I learned in this journey was is to be aware. You have to become aware. Everything that happens to you is like, oh God, I'm angry. Why am I angry? Right? What is this? Where is this coming from? I'm frustrated. When you start noticing why, and one thing that is extremely important is to write down your thoughts, have a journal, a piece of paper, something that is so helpful, that people don't understand now with the digital era, right? We're just like, okay, type, and we stop like writing things, right? And it's so important when you put your feeling down and you read and then you go back, it's like, oh my God, I was feeling this way, let me understand why I was feeling. So awareness is, it's basically nowadays a word that like it involves my life. Awareness.
Hmm. Yeah,
What?
no, I think that's really good because you touched upon several different elements that many people are dealing with right now, right? Like we've all gone through this whole and still going through this COVID quarantine lockdown, and it's really dealing with all these key elements that you identified: a change of environment, a change in relationships, a doubt in self, right? So all of these things are coming into play all at once with all of these major changes. And you may not realize that you're dealing with personal suffering because you're going, I just want this to be done. I just want this to be over. I just need to move on to the next thing. And that space all by itself is a space of personal suffering, right? It is that space where you're walking through that.
Yeah, nowadays, what I notice a lot of suffering also with all this COVID and all the lockdown and everything. Several things. First, people that they get, well, for example, the media is always there telling, still, you still have to be careful not to go out. The vaccines are not, you know, we don't have the vaccines yet, so be careful. There's a second wave, so you don't know if you're if it's okay for you to go out or not. Life's still very we still don't know what's happening, right, in this this new time that we're living. So we don't know if we should work, if it's okay. And then we would go out, people, some people are wearing masks, people are not wearing masks, and then you get frustrated again because, oh, you're doing your part and someone else is not doing it. How do you go about? So this is one part. Another one's like, sometimes you're locked down, and you're having an awful time with your family. Could happen too, right? Things are not working out at home, and then you go to social media, and some people are happy, they're having the time of their life with their family, and then you start comparing yourself. Another thing that I think it plays a huge role in when when in suffering is when you start comparing your life to someone else's life. Oh, I could have that, I could be doing that, and you're not satisfied with your life. That's why there is not one day, but for like years now, that the first thing when I open my eyes, I like, thank you. Well, I thank God, right? But you can take that universe, anyone you feel like. So it's not a religion, it's like something spiritual, right? So I like, thank you, God, for allowing me to open my eyes one more day. Thank you, God, that I'm able to see. I told you that recently I went through an eye surgery,
Mm-hmm.
um, and like I'm seeing better than I used to. So thank you. My eyes are getting better and better every day. So
Yay.
and I have the dogs and cats near me jumping, and like, oh my God, having this amazing, I don't know, just this amazing beings near me with all the happiness. I'm like, thank you, thank you. So the first thing I do when I get up is like, I'm grateful. Sometimes I don't really have a lot of time if I wake up late, if I'm tired, if I oversleep, but the first thing I do is just like at least three or four things. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I do, usually I do try to find my hour of power in the morning, right, where I say my gratitude. Most of the time I do have time to do some kind of meditation, so I listen to people that feed my mind. Then I have 30 minutes that I put in my clock. I'm like, I have to read for 30 minutes, different topics, not necessarily like one topic and I have to finish the book. Some days I get up, I'm like, oh, let me go more about health. Let me learn a little bit more about wealth. So, and that I'm feeding my mind. And every day at the end of the day, I also say, what did I learn today? How was my day? Right. Also, one thing that I do is I visualize how I would like my day to be, right? I think this is very important for you to create your day. So I'm gonna, if something bad happens, if I listen to something that it's not nice, okay, I'm going to listen, I'm going to get information, but I'm not going to feel stuck or get involved in that. So in neurolinguistic, we say we see that from a different perspective, right? As if we're watching a movie. So one of the things that I learned that I think it's very important is that sometimes you suffer for things that's really not yours to suffer also, because there are many things in the world that of course you look and feel like suffering, right? um, like I said, I help a lot of animals every day in my cell phone. I get, please help this animal and this and that. In the beginning I used to suffer because I would say, oh my God, I cannot help all of these animals, right? All the dogs and cats, I don't have enough money to help, I don't have a place to put them, and I would suffer. Nowadays I go, okay, I got this, let me see how can I help, let me see if I can get friends to help me pay, let me see if someone can rescue this animal. So I took a different approach to the way I handle things, right? I don't get stuck involved in the problem. Like, okay, let me step back, let me look at this. How can I figure this out? So there are ways that you can help others instead of like you suffering. When you see bombing in the thing that happened in Lebanon, right? The explosion and so many people were killed. It's like, oh my God, how can I help? Is there an institution that I can send money? Can I send my love? Right? Sometimes just
Prayers and
still
thoughts.
sending love, prayers. This is just like something, and you feel good, right? But then when you feel like, oh my God, look at how the world is, there's nothing I can do, how can I change the world? And it's like also a little bit egocentric when you feel that you are responsible, right, to take care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So and you start saying, all right, so it's basically to stop and say, how can I help, what can I do, but do not get involved in the suffering of others. Find a
For
way to help.
sure. I
Okay.
just I'd like to say really quickly, if there, for those out there, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat and I will be sure to ask Anna whatever it is that you've identified in the chat. I want to kind of take a little step back on personal suffering
Okay.
because I think for some people viewing that they may connect to the topic, they may not in the sense of, well, I just had a bad day, or I'm just having a bad moment or a bad time. And I wouldn't call that personal suffering. And so I want to try to hone it in to bring some perspective.
Hmm.
So let me give a little view from my space. I know a few years ago, I went through a major career change. And what was happening with me is that I kind of reached my max in life kind of deal. I hit all my goals. I kind of hit everything that I wanted to go after. And so it was just feeling like, so now what? Right? Like life didn't have the meaning that it was supposed to have upon this arrival. Right? So it was just kind of like, what do I do now? And I remember really feeling lost, just lost and disconnected. And so I took the stance of stepping out of my job. I took a sabbatical. I decided that I was going to really just kind of figure myself out. And those first steps of doing that was really me just going, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I know what I'm doing now isn't it because I'm not happy. Like, I don't feel the essence of happiness. I don't wake up in the morning with a smile on my face. I don't walk throughout the day feeling like today was a pretty decent, good day, right? Like those regular, plain feelings weren't present. I woke up and I'd feel heavy. I'd walk around the day like, what am I supposed to do with it? I would walk outside and just be like, meh. I'd go and get something to eat and it was just food. Like it wasn't really pleasurable. There wasn't anything that really brought me to an element of at least glimpsing a bliss of life or the bliss of life. There was no element of that. And so that's what caused me to really just go, I've got to step into some other things. I need to start waking myself out of this space to get to the next thing. I bring that up because sometimes when you are in a personal transition, when you are moving from one place in your life to another, you can easily dive into suffering. And you
Hmm.
can easily put yourself in a position where you can't see your way out of it. So it's a funny space to maneuver, right? Because if you're not maintaining perspective on, okay, I'm going through this to really go through this, not to sit in this and try to figure it out. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. Like, yes, you're going through a transition. Like, lots of people are going through a transition right now with their businesses, with their relationships, with their environments. And it's sitting in that transition is where the mistakes happen versus walking through them.
Hmm.
So, what I really appreciated about what you stated, you gave the tool of visualizing your day. Can you walk us through that tool and how an individual would use that, especially in trying to walk through that environment, that whole transitioning space?
All right. Got it. What you said. Actually, I'm going to say two things for the
Perfect.
daily, for the life. Um, one thing that our Tonio Tony Robbins says is that progress equals happiness,
Mm-hmm.
right? So usually when you're, I can imagine that when you were feeling that, just like when you're in that moment, right? Just like you didn't see that you were growing,
Mm-hmm.
right? There was no progress. Just life was still, and stillness is like you're dead, right? If you don't grow, you die. What he says, it's completely true, right? Everything has to grow. So one of the things that I think it's important is for a person always to set themselves goals. And it's great. You said that you reached your goals, but you didn't have a plan after you reached your goals,
Mm-hmm.
right? So um, I think you should have different plans in life, different for different areas of your life, right? For career, for relationship, spirituality, whatever. So you should have like goals. And of course, it's amazing when you reach goals. And it's funny that something happened similar to me. I had the goal of reaching a certain weight, and I did. And when I reached, I said, now what? Actually, I don't look the way I wanted to look. I think I look skinnier. My belly's flat, and I was actually not happy about it because I didn't have the other steps. So after you reach a certain goal, how do I want my muscles to be, for example, in terms of the my body,
Mm-hmm.
right? The physical body. Um, so after that, what is more important? So after I reached my goal, because I had my focus on weight loss and I forgot the other areas of my life, instead of like, okay, when I reach the goal of my weight, what's the next area that I should look at? Right? How can
Yeah.
I become better? So one thing that I always say is like, how can I be better every day? So this also is a way for you to never stop growing. How can I be better than yesterday? Can it be something that I say to my loved ones, right? Sometimes the way that I talk to my husband, maybe I wasn't that nice the day before, and I could be better, and I can learn how to change the way I talk. Um, Walk faster or work harder or anything. So always find something for you to do. So if you have a goal which is amazing and if you're getting closer, right? Think of the next step. Think of a next goal, something else. Or because again, as you said, life is not going to be okay once you reach that goal. Sometimes, we hear that millionaires, they go crazy, they get depressed because they get, okay, I want to have this house, the car, and what else? Right? What else do you want from life? And life gives you so many things, and well, how I feel, maybe it's not um, how people feel, is like you have to live in a beautiful state. You have to be in peace with yourself. It's amazing to have great cars, to have a huge house, but if you're not in peace with yourself, none of the things will mean a lot after a while. You get the car and you're like, okay, I got the car, right? You have the a beautiful, I don't know, a beautiful house, and what else, right? So one thing that I listened the other day, actually, I heard from Sad Guru. I don't know if you heard
Mm-hmm.
about him. I
Mm-hmm.
love him, and he says that we can suffer in anything in our life. If we have a relationship, we suffer. If we don't have a relationship, we suffer. If we have money, we suffer. If we don't have money, we suffer. So we keep suffering for everything. So how do we avoid that? Basically, is how to avoid the suffering, being present, being grateful, right? So those are the things that help you not to suffer. And so what are the tools? So one of the tools that I said is I always have goals for my life. When I notice that I'm reaching one of the things, I start thinking of a next level. How do I want to be in the next 5, 10 years? Because life keeps going, right? So keep changing my goal, or if something is not working, if I did not reach my goal, so I have to change my strategy, right? So this is one of the things that I also think it's important for us to do. But as I said, also visualize. Who do I want to be? So how do I want to contribute for people that want that? One thing that I also got from a coach of mine, when I one of the days that I wasn't in the most beautiful state. Something had happened, and I said, "Oh God, this is like getting me a little bit anxious." And then he said, "Anna, suffering is an ego thing. Is when you only think about yourself. When you live in a beautiful state, you're thinking about others. So instead of being anxious or sad or angry that something is happening and that will lead you to suffering, stop thinking about you. If a business, and I remember this case, it was like someone had opened a restaurant very similar to mine, um, just like three or places right after mine, and and I was actually very angry at the mall that allowed that to happen. Right, I said, "Oh my God, we're still beginning to work our journey here, and now they put a restaurant like right beside us." And this is what I mean, the suffering. I was thinking about me. I wasn't thinking about, oh, this is good that there we're going to have two people with the same line of food. That means that it's growing. And like I mentioned to you, I have a vegan restaurant. So instead of thinking, oh my God, so veganism is growing, I mean, there are space for more restaurants. So when you change the focus on you, and you said, look at that, there's something else, it's better for the veganism. I have to work harder. What if I have this competitor or this person with the same line of restaurant that I have, it's going to push me to grow. So instead of me looking at the suffering, I'm going to see how can I grow, how can I be better. This is what I'm saying, it will push me to grow, to be better. And this is the beauty of it, right? Another tool that I used, that I think it's good, I learned at actually one of Tony event at Life Mastery, is especially if you're not feeling so good, rate yourself from 1 to 10. How am I feeling today? Am I, or at the moment, am I a 5? How can I change from a 5 to a 10, or to a 9, or even go steps by step? How can I change from 5 to a 7? What could I do? What's going to make me happy? Sometimes just listening to a good music. Sometimes it's listening to watching a show on television. Just something, not necessarily that you have to learn. It's just like, oh God, let me laugh at something that I watch on television. So change your state. So be aware of how you are, how you're feeling, right? If you're, and change that. Go to the next level, right? Find the next level. Because if you don't rate yourself, sometimes you can start your day and it happens. Sometimes you wake up and you're a 10. Thanks God, I'm so grateful, this beautiful day, everything is working. And when you leave, you see an accident or something happen, or something, your car breaks, or, and of course that level can start like going down. And the idea is like, okay, something is not working. Let me change my state. So be aware of your state is also important, right?
Indeed. I think one of my favorite tools is actually nature. So I love what nature has to teach us when we're willing to pay attention. One of my favorite elements of nature to observe is water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the human body is mostly made up of water. And what we fail to realize is the way in which water moves throughout nature is the same type of impact that we have in the spaces that we reside in. This is why I love observing water. So you can watch water as like a stream. Where it's rolling down a stream, it's slow, it's steady. There really isn't any major waves to it unless someone comes through and disrupts it. And then it's a bigger current that goes down the stream. But as long as it's steady, it eventually makes a mark in its path for wherever it's begun. And it keeps going, and now it starts to dig a path. Now everyone knows this is the path of that stream. That's the way in which it goes. When you look at a river and it's rolling through, the water is rolling through, the boulders and the rocks that are there. Eventually, those rocks will either erode and the water will make its mark, or it will move that boulder further down. It will make that motion. And we too have the same ways within each other. The other piece of what I love about water is how it shows us how to actually deal with relationships and relationships with one another. We tend to look at relationships as this is someone that I need to own, control, manage, figure out, right? These are all things that are egocentric, causing personal suffering,
Mhm.
right? In all the things that we're trying to do. But has anyone ever tried to grab a fist of water?
Exactly. Sure.
Like runs right through your hands. So it's the understanding that if you just pause for a minute, if you just step outside, if you just take off your shoes, take off your socks, allow your feet to settle in the grass. If you have concrete, let it sit on the concrete. Stand there for a second. Just take a note of nature. Look at the trees, look at the birds, look at the bugs, look at the flowers, look at the fruit trees, whatever it is that's around you. Observe that moment. And if you allow it, it will tell you everything you need to know in your present state to get through this time.
True.
Never fails. Never, ever fails. And it's really just taking a moment to pause, to really just reflect, inhale, seize the moment, and allow that to begin to lessen your ego stance on the scenario. And I love that you brought in that personal suffering is really about the ego taking a stance, because there's a tool that I've actually created, and I created it in dealing with self love. Self love in order to manage your own self mastery. And I know a lot of people tend to feel one way or another about self love. Lots of people go into their headspace about that, right? Where they're like, it's about being, confident. It's about knowing who you are. It's about stepping into a room and owning it. No, those are elements and more like symptoms of self love. But self love is so much deeper because it works on you, the five core elements of your being: heart, mind, body, soul, spirit, right? You have those five core elements of your human being. So when you're looking at that self love space and you're looking at, okay, here's my personal suffering, here's what I'm dealing with right now, your ego is only popping up to preserve you, to protect you. Like it's always seen as a bad guy, but it's rising up because it's going, you're not doing the job, so I'm here to do it. So the question becomes, in these five core elements, what's broken, what's bruised, what's being struck right now that you're not paying attention to, that your ego is rising up to actually protect you.
Yeah.
Because each one is dealing with an element of really helping you to live out in wholeness, in the self-love, in the fullness of who you are. And each one has a very specific question. And with those questions, it's within the heart space, what is it that I'm feeling right now? Within the mind, what is it that I'm looking to learn and grow? Within the body, what is it that I'm looking to experience? Within the spirit, what is it that I'm looking to be enlightened to? And within the soul, what is it that I'm willing to sacrifice? Because that's where the ego is. And that's the one that will pop out to,
Oh, that's
protect everyone.
beautiful.
Yeah, and that's the tool that I created, and really just looking at how is it that I'm managing myself to lessen my suffering, to lessen my ego from popping up and going, look, you're not doing it. So let me just preserve, let me protect. And sometimes taking a step into nature and just pausing when everything is going wild within you is the perfect resetting space.
It is. That's why I think animals are so wonderful to have around, because when you look at them, sometimes you don't even have to go out there here, right? I mean,
Yes.
chaos is happening and they're happy, right? And it's so easy. Another thing that Sadhguru says is just like, sometimes the more conscious and the more intellectual you are, the more you suffer, because you start bringing all those things to your mind. And he says, look at an animal. An animal doesn't have that. Learn with them, right? So
Mhm.
it's what you're saying, right? So it's amazing. I'm blessed to live right in front of a huge park, and by the beach. So I have the beach and the park right between my apartment. So in the morning, we walk the dogs and we get to see the birds, and it's just like, it's a time that it's amazing. So I'm always connecting. But even if you don't have that, sometimes you live in a place that you don't have. I've done some. There are people that they are able to do some kind of meditations, that they walk you through nature, that if you allow, if you ease your mind, right, you're able to feel that, you're able to feel that you're walking in the middle of the nature, in the middle of the trees, and you're listening to the birds, and that helps you calm yourself down. So what you said, basically, suffering is what, when you're not really focused in the present moment, and quiet all of your thoughts and everything that's going on, and being able to think in a better way, find solutions, right? When you start thinking about the past, or because something happened, or the future, what is going to happen, right? And live the present moment so you can create your future. So the
Mhm.
decisions that you're making today, and Tony says that all the time, it will influence your life. And if you're nervous, if you're sad, if you're in a bad state, probably you're not going to make uh, good decisions to create a good life. So before making some kind of decisions, check your state, check how you are, right? You wouldn't want your employee or your loved ones, as he said, to make decisions when they are in a, if they are a five, right? So check your state. How am I to make this decision? How am I to think of, um, to avoid suffering? If sometimes, some, of course, sometimes you need to take decisions in the moment, but still, if you're in a good place, if you're in a beautiful state, it's easier for you to make better decisions. And the
Mm.
best better decisions will help you create a better future will, which will avoid suffering, right? Or lessen your suffering.
Indeed. I'd love to walk the viewers through visualization because I think it is important, and I do love the fact that you've identified that as a tool for beginning a day and beginning it differently, and really just starting to, um, if you are in a position of suffering, if you cannot get a handle on your ego and how it's feeling or preserving you at the moment, that at least beginning with visualization is it's giving your mind a different picture that allows you to begin to step out of that space. So I'd love it if you could walk us through just how someone actually does that. How does someone begin to do visualization? I know it, but I'd love for the viewers to know how you do it.
Okay. I do have used, I listen a lot to Joe Dispenza. Okay. I think he's an amazing person. And usually, like, what I do really is, I begin my day. Like I said, I'm grateful for things. And then I get my cell phone and I put Joe Dispenza's meditation. And what he says is just like, avoid thinking the same thoughts, right? So basically is, all right, how my day it's going to be. So I'm going to get up, I'm going to do certain things that I'm going to do. um, if something disrupts me, I'm going to be aware and I'm going to change. I'm not going to allow that feeling to take over. So what feelings am I going to choose to feel? So this is something that I think it's good in the visualization. You start thinking like, if you know that you're gonna have a hard day at work, for example, like, okay, if someone says that I'm not that something, someone says that it's gonna bother me, how am I gonna react to that person? Okay, I'm going to listen to this. If I'm driving and some car like cuts in front of me, I'm not gonna get angry. Maybe the person has something more important to deal with. And so basically, I walk myself through that. So, how my day is going to be. I'm going to get home safe. Nothing's going to happen. My husband is going to be okay. My son is going to be okay. My animals are going to be fine. So, that's the idea, right? Visualize the perfect day for you. So, take your time to visualize a perfect day, right? And
That's
of course, I
beautiful.
always bless myself, my loved ones, and I send blessing to the world. And I think this is a way also to, I think this is a beautiful way to start the day. And it works for me. Maybe it doesn't work for for a lot of people, but why not try, right? So,
Yes.
I know
No,
harm
that is
it won't do.
beautiful. Sorry, go ahead.
I said no harm will happen. Maybe you don't like it, right? But I think it's a way for you to be present. So, what I think it's important for you to be present and aware. The more you know yourself, why am I feeling this? Oh my God, how can I change my state, right? And things will happen. And
And
helping others, contributing. I cannot end our conversation without saying contribute. Contribute to a cause, to your neighbor, do something for others, right? There are people that need you. When you think that, oh my God, my life has no meaning, go out and help someone. There's always someone that will need your help. A hug, a food if you can deliver, a word, right? A song that you play, anything. Do something for someone else.
indeed. Oh my goodness. You have shared so many wonderful insights and wonderful tools over these past 40, 50 some odd minutes. I thank you so very much. I mean, there's a wealth of information that you've shared here, really just in someone seeing the challenges, the different layers of what it looks like, where someone starts, how you can end. Getting perspective is so important. Beginning your day and how you go about beginning your day is super important. Notating gratitude. You've identified several tools of self management, the visualization, the contribution, ensuring that you have a rate tool and looking at the space of rating yourself, being present and grateful, and managing your state. Coming back to always reflecting on how present am I physically, emotionally in this space of the day.
May I
So,
say, oh, sorry, may I
yes,
say
for
one thing
sure.
important? I talked about a lot about feeding your mind, right, with all the tools and everything, but it's also very important how you feed your body. What you eat is very important. I used to eat a lot of carbohydrates, a bad carbohydrates. I used to eat a lot of sugar. And nowadays I eat like very little sugar. If someone, like if I'm at a party and someone offers me, I just go, okay, but like it's not something that I don't need anymore. And it has made a complete change in my life. So also what you do in the morning, drinking water, and I learn how to drink celery juice in the morning. So I have my
Me
big
too.
so I drink celery juice in the morning. So this is a way to flush also the things, right? So you begin your day energized. So what also, not only your mind, but your body, you have to be aware and you have to be careful how you feed it. So this is something just like to close that I think it's very important.
Oh, it's beautiful because that's a very important point for sure. And I just started celery juicing too a couple of months ago. I love it.
I know.
It's so effective. I love it. That and the hot lemon water in the morning, it kind of just
Oh, yeah.
cleans everything up and starts you up right. So, before we move on to anything else, I actually really wanted to do the little known fact or fun fact about you, your tattoos.
Oh, I have a bunch of them. These are pretty new. I just did it.
They're awesome. Is that a face?
Yeah, it's a face, and it has a lot to do with transition, right? Because like a woman that becomes like butterfly or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and it also has to do with well, this is sunflower, which is a flower that I love. It shines. Look to the skies, right? Finding looking for the sun, and it has feminine energy. That's why the face, a woman's face. So it's just like,
Ah,
oh, thank
that's beautiful. Because I
you.
see that you have the color on this side.
Yeah,
So
I have the universe. I also ask a lot for like God and the universe when I need it. So it's like I find peace when I look at this one.
they are gorgeous.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful additions. And I'm assuming it's you growing in that space is what caused you to add the beautiful feminine power to your arm.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's beautiful. Well, Anna, thank you so very much again for coming on here and sharing the beauty of your journey and the triumphs that you have made in this space. We appreciate you spending your time with us and sharing the jewels of information that that you have. So, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
My
It was
pleasure.
a
Would you like to
pleasure.
say something in Portuguese?
Oh, no, it's okay. I hope everyone understood what I
Okay.
said.
Okay. All right, you guys. Thank you so very much for joining Journey of Self Mastery Fridays. We appreciate you, and we will see you next week on our next self mastery journey.
Oh yeah, guys, don't forget, if you like this one, next Friday she will have one. So if it's not me, it will be someone else. Very interesting too, because I know Patricia knows how to pick the people, and she leads this beautifully. So yes, follow her. All
Thank you. All right, you guys. Take care of you and have a wonderful weekend and a beautiful week to come.
right, bye
Bye.
bye. Thank you.
Thank you.